Catholic social teaching actually goes back to the scriptures. What is important distinction is we talk about what's called modern Catholic social teaching. And that begins in most people's writing in 1891 with the publication of the encyclical Rerum Novarum by Pope Leo XIII. It's the beginning of a whole body of papal, or some people would say Vatican, formal teaching about basically social reality, social, economic, political realities. And it's important because it comes right at the height of really the Industrial Revolution and deals with very important kind of new questions in human history. When we now had people working in factories all day, we had families no longer working on the farm, but split up with father and mother and children, maybe all working in different factories, etc., and working all week long and working without holidays. You have this very important body of formal church teaching that comes out in 1891. It's also important because it defines certain rights of workers that had not been as clear in Catholic teaching, and maybe had not been needed to be clear, like the right to organize unions, which was very controversial in this country, for example, and in Europe as well, because much of this addresses an Atlantic community church, namely North America and Europe. And so when Pope Leo says workers have a right to organize, that's a very important and controversial position for the church to formally take. Now, the roots of modern Catholic social teaching were in the intellectual ferment of Catholic universities and Catholic scholars in the labor movement itself, in universities as well. And it goes back then, you work your way back to the medieval period when you have the articulation of three kinds of justice. So when our bishops write Economic Justice for All in 1986, they cite the medieval history, kind of the medieval synthesis coming out of classic Catholic philosophy and theology, which defined three forms of justice, one of which was what's called commutative justice, which is justice in my dealings. If I agree to work for $10 an hour for you for 8 hours of the day, then I'm bound to work and you're bound to pay me, which people violate even now today with a lot of immigrant workers, etc. But it's a first form of justice out of medieval Catholic synthesis was this commutative justice. The second one was what was called distributive justice, which gets at some of the questions about the distribution of wealth within society at large, and that some people should not have so much, especially if other people have so little. So that was an articulation for the medieval period. And the third was called contributive justice, sometimes called social justice, which is my duty to contribute to the well-being of society at large. So I have a duty as a citizen, as a parent, as a teacher, whatever it may be, to contribute to, go back to this Greek concept, the common good of society, by my efforts, by my wealth, by my gifts in society at large. So the Catholic social teaching really goes back to Jewish social teaching, and modern Catholic social teaching gets started in 1891 with Rerum Novarum.